It's time to mind your business with me, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in to find out how to mind your business with BEDC, special guest entrepreneurs, industry experts, and more. Brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here. So welcome, Trudy Simmons. You are the Knowledge and Audit Manager of Compliance at the Office of the Tax Commissioner.
Yes, that's right.
So wonderful to have you here with us on Mind Your Business. And today we're going to be talking about payroll tax.
Yes.
Everybody's favorite topic.
I know.
And when I say favorite, I'm of course being sarcastic.
Yes. I know.
But it is necessary.
Yes.
And so I think it's important for people who are looking to start a business or who have an existing business or a hustle. And are looking to formalize it to understand what is required and all of that.
Yes.
But before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, sure. So, like you said, I'm Trudy Simmons, and I am the Knowledge and Audit Manager. I have a bachelor's degree in commerce from St. Mary's University.
Okay.
I'm also a certified fraud examiner. And also a certified compliance professional.
Okay.
I like to garden. That's my new favorite thing.
Okay.
Yes. And at the Office of the Tax Commissioner, the most that I do in my office is audit the books and records of non-compliant taxpayers.
Okay.
I also vet applications that come through our office for various concessions.
Okay.
And then also just basically, mostly auditing the books and records of
that sounds fun.
Non-compliance. Yes. And it's time consuming. So,
I can imagine.
Most of my time, yes.
So for our stakeholders and the people that we work with, this, of course, is one of the 4 compulsory benefits, right? Registering for payroll tax. Can you tell us why a business should register?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so there's a few variants that go into that question. Businesses should register because if they're paying themselves, any type of remuneration is what we call it, but it's actually salaries, wages, any cash coming from the business is considered to be taxable.
Okay.
You had mentioned hustle, people that have businesses that they consider to be hustles.
Yeah.
People don't realize that if you're paying yourself, then that's taxable.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why we let people know. And then, of course, the other component is that if we find out that, you've been operating your business, and you have not registered for payroll tax, the fines are pretty hefty, $100,000.
What you saying?
Yes, exactly. And the other thing is that we can go back to the inception of the business. So if you've been open for 3 years, we can go back those 3 years.
So, okay, this is a question that we always get because people come to us, maybe they have a full-time job.
Right.
Maybe they're just was doing things for themselves. Let's say I'm going to use the example of making like skin products. They were like, I'm just going to do this for me because what they have out there is not available.
Right.
Let a couple of people try it. They're like, girl, you need to start this business or whatever.
Yes.
So they haven't really formalize their business structure. This is really something that they were doing as a hobby. So the question is when?
Right.
Like at what point should someone say, okay, I need to go and register because now this is something that I want to start taking seriously. When should they come and register?
Right. So the legislation states that they should register 7 days after the quarter ends.
Okay.
So today is March the 1st.
Yes.
The quarter ends March 31st.
Yes.
They have until the 7th day of April to register their business.
Okay.
And that's within legislation.
Okay.
But we normally tell anybody that if they're going to start a business, then they should register, at any time during that period.
Okay.
Because what you don't want to happen is you register your business and you're not going to start until July.
Right.
And then you end up accumulating assessments because you didn't, let us know
Yeah.
that you didn't start your business.
Right.
So that's why,
And I think that has been what I've seen has been the gray area for a lot of people because
Right.
what defines starting, right?
Yes.
I'm doing research. I'm trying to assess whether people even want what I'm selling.
Right.
So I'm building a website,
Yes,
for example.
right.
So I technically haven't had any sales or
Right.
done anything like that.
Right.
This is all starting all the information I'm trying to gather
Right.
to prepare myself for starting.
Right.
So I mean, we would typically say don't register then because
Right.
you're going to start accumulating the
Right.
fees,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And you hadn't technically done anything.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's when you start the services.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually selling
Right.
the product or service.
Correct,
Is
yes.
when you should actually come in to
Right,
the
and
office
register, yes.
and register.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talking about registration, what does that look like? How can we do that?
Right, so we have a website. It's www.gov.bm
Okay.
/payroll-tax.
Okay.
And because the gov.bm portal is so huge, I always tell people that end part about the payroll tax because it takes you directly to our page.
Okay.
And on that page, you will find lots of information about payroll tax, but you also find the registration form.
Okay.
And on that registration form, there is a notes for guidance that lets you know what's needed when registering. So you would complete that form and provide support and documentation. So if it's a limited liability company,
Okay.
then there's documentation, legal documentation that's needed. If there's a partnership, you need the partnership agreement. If it's just a sole proprietor, then you're basically just providing your utility bill and your identification.
Okay.
And it normally takes about 5 business days
Okay.
turnaround in order for you to get your tax ID number.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you can get it fairly quickly when
Yes.
you're ready.
Yes, exactly.
So what is the difference between payroll tax and income tax? Because
Right.
some people get confused,
they
right?
do,
And they're
yes.
like, but what should I
Right.
write?
And especially if they're used to, so if you're coming from other jurisdictions,
Yes.
then you're used to income tax. But the difference is that for payroll tax, we are taxing the amount of salaries, wages, benefits that are paid to employees, self-employed persons, and deemed employees.
Okay.
So it's, yeah.
So deemed employees, what is that?
So deemed employees. There's self-employed persons and then there's deemed employees.
Yeah.
The self-employed person doesn't have employees. They earn the company but
Ye-
don't have employees.
Yes.
The deemed employee earns the company but also works for the company. So they have the
Got you.
employees but they also...
Also work for the company as
Right.
well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I think sometimes people get confused. They're like, well, I don't have any employees, so I
Right.
shouldn't. I'm like, but somebody doing the
Yes,
work,
right,
right?
exactly.
Someone is selling the products or
Yes.
making the products or whatever. So that is what you would write down, I guess, on your application.
Right.
The other question I have to ask you is sometimes when people are starting up, they don't really have a grasp of how much remuneration
Right.
they should be paying themselves.
Right.
So they're not sure what they should write.
Right.
How would you suggest or recommend that someone calculate that?
Right. So that's important because we do have that on the application where they have to put what they propose. But as a business owner, you should know how much you want to pay yourself
Yeah.
or gauge how much you think you're going to pay yourself. So if you can do a business plan, which I'm sure the
Yeah.
BBC offers help on, you can know how much, okay, well, I'm going to start this business and I think I'm going to pay myself about $50,000. Let me just write down $50,000.
Right.
But in that business plan, you've already done your calculations because that's part of the business process, and that's what you would include on your application.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to ask you, because with registering for payroll tax, you register, you do the initial application, you get your payroll tax ID number, then there's a requirement that you file
Right.
every quarter, right?
Yes, uh-huh.
And when you do that filing, do you have the opportunity to adjust? So let's say I said I'm going to pay myself $50,000 a year, but when it comes time for me to file, I'm like, wow, I ain't
Right.
nowhere close to
Right.
to what I said.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so what is there an opportunity for me to adjust what I actually paid myself?
Right. So that adjustment, that once you file your first return,
Yes.
that's going to be what you're actually paying yourself. So we
Okay.
can only base it what you're actually receiving.
Yes.
So if you can prove that this is what you actually received, then that's what it's going to be.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you say prove, what do you mean?
Now that's where the books and records come into play.
Okay.
As a business owner, you should be ensuring that you have proper books and records. You have your accounting information. If you're not a person that's using QuickBooks, you can have a piece of paper. Some people do have pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Where it just shows that they made this amount of revenue,
Yeah.
they paid this in expenses, and in their expenses, they paid themselves $5,000 for the month.
Right.
So that includes your books and records, also bank statements, contracts that's been paid out. So things like that we consider to be books and records.
Okay.
So that's why it's important that people hold on to that.
Keep
type of
them,
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
And we tell people when they are setting up a business to create a separate business account
Yes.
because it would make reconciliation easier,
Yes,
right?
and that's it, right? Yes.
Yeah,
And that's
'cause
a big thing.
From
Right.
your perspective, you audit. Now
Yes.
you're saying these people are non-compliant, so
Right.
now I'm gonna go and check what you
Yes.
said, and so I'm sure it makes your job a lot easier if they can clearly say, okay, well,
Right.
here are our
This is-
records.
Yes, this is our business account. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
okay. Well, one of the things that I think that we get asked a lot also is there support? So I think people either get nervous
Oh,
or,
right.
you know what I mean? When it
Yes.
comes to filing, they're not quite sure.
Right.
So does the Office of the Tax Commissioner offer support with filing?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
that?
So the tax office have what we call tax inspectors. And everybody that's assigned a tax ID number, all the taxpayers that are assigned a tax ID number,
Okay.
have a respective tax inspector. So out of those three, you would find out who your tax inspector is. And these ladies are very helpful and knowledgeable. And usually you would come in to the office, make an appointment, of course, come in, and they would show you how to file returns.
Okay.
Then we also offer monthly seminars,
Okay.
which I host as well, where we teach people how to file payroll taxes as well.
Do you have a seminar coming up, or when's the
Yes.
next one?
The next one will be the beginning of March.
Okay.
But it's not confirmed yet because there's been some changes in legislation that
Okay.
we're, want to make sure that we have that, ironed
Included.
out for,
Yeah. Well, that's good to know because I think sometimes people are fearful, right?
Yes.
Especially in your position,
Yes.
right? They don't want to come see.
No, they don't.
They don't want to see.
They don't. I know.
But understanding that it is part of the process of
Yes.
owning and operating a business in Bermuda,
Right.
I think, it will be nice to remove that kind of fearful or kind of negative opinion that people might have,
Right.
and just accept it as part of the cost of doing
And
business,
that's it.
and understanding that there are people who can help you to
Yes.
understand how to get it done and make sure that it's filed.
That's true.
So what happens in the event that you forget to file? So I've registered, have
Right.
my ID number. I said I was gonna make 50,000 a year. I've been so busy
Right.
trying to pull this business together.
Right.
Haven't really done anything yet, but I forgot to file.
Right.
What happens?
So the the tax period is from the 1st to the 15th
Okay.
of the month after the quarter ends. So you have up until the 15th.
Okay.
However, the day after, the 16th, is a 5% penalty. Yes, so it's 5% each month, and the maximum is 30%.
Each month that you don't file.
Right, so it's going to be like a late fee
Okay.
on top of whatever you file for that quarter.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the penalty there. And then also, like I said earlier, if you do not file and you've gone, let's say, 3 months without filing your returns, there are what we call assessments. So the system automatically generates what
Yeah.
we think that you should have paid or
Right.
your tax should have been.
Right.
So you don't want any of those. You don't want a penalty of 5%, and you don't want the assessments because the assessments are very inflated.
Right.
So that's why it's important that, as you said, the cost of business is making sure that you remember that, oh my goodness, it's almost quarter end. Let me put
Let
it in
me
my
do it.
calendar
Yeah.
so that I get my taxes filed on time.
Right.
Yeah, because that's
Right.
additional money going out of your account.
So in the event that I've forgotten, I've been assessed, I have this bill, and I'm looking at it going, but that's not right.
Right.
I did not make any money. Like, I haven't paid myself anything.
Right.
What recourse, if any, do I have?
Right, so that's another thing. So if you can prove to us, so if you can submit actual returns, we would prefer actual returns. We don't want to put these assessments on people's
Right,
accounts. We want to
right.
see what your actual return is, how much you made. So you would submit a return to our office, and that would be used as opposed to the assessments, or but you'll still get a penalty on it, but you would use the revised return as opposed to the assessments.
So that would the process would be someone coming in, making an appointment, and saying, "Look, I got this, but
Right.
it's not right.
Right.
I have filled out a form. Can we please use this instead?"
Instead, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can make
Okay.
an appointment or they can send us an email.
Okay.
Yeah, just
all right.
it's very important, and that's the big thing that we're trying to get out to the public, that it's important that you advise our office so that we can make the adjustments. If you need to delete your account and you don't tell us, then we don't know, and we're putting all these assessments on top of your account.
Because sometimes people, you think you're going to start this business, you go and register as legally you're
Yes,
supposed to.
right.
Life happens.
Yep.
And then you're like, well, I can't do this.
Yep.
And you just keep on doing something else.
Right.
But you haven't let your office know.
Right.
And so assessments are still accruing, and they're like, but I haven't done I haven't done that for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like the assessments, you have a 30-day grace period.
Yeah.
So after 30 days, we don't legally have to delete those assessments. We don't have to accept revised returns.
Oh.
So that's why it's very important that the business owners, keep in contact with our office.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing.
So they should be, you should be on their friend list,
We
right?
should be, yes. Definitely.
You should be friends.
Yes.
So I mean, this is important information for people to hear because, like I said, I think people are nervous about it. They don't want to do it. They're like, this is just another expense.
Yes.
I'm not making enough yet.
Right.
So in a scenario where they filed, they've registered, they filed, and they're like, I really haven't paid myself anything, but I'm filing anyway. How do you address that? Can you file a zero, payment?
Right. Yes. So we do have what we call nil returns.
Okay.
And so a nil return means that you did not pay yourself during the period.
Okay.
But you have to provide an explanation
As to why.
So we're not just going to say, okay, well, fine. And then the other thing is that we only allow nil returns up to 2 quarters.
Okay.
So it's like you're going to file 2 nil returns, and then by the third one, it's going to raise a red flag.
Yeah,
Okay,
because it's like, what are you doing then?
Yeah, how are you living? How are you surviving?
Right.
These types of questions that we ask.
Right,
So,
right.
That's the other way that, And then the other thing I was going to say is that some taxpayers would say that they're not paying themselves.
Yeah.
Or that they're not taking any money from the business. But like I said, how are you living? How are you surviving? And the cost of risks of doing business is that you're going to go into business so that you can make yourself some money.
Right.
So things like that people have to think about as well.
So what do you include in the remuneration? So there's what I would pay myself. So let's just say I'm making the skin product and I'm going to pay myself what I would pay someone to make the product, whatever that is, right? $10 an hour, $12 an hour.
Right.
Because I still have my full-time job,
Right.
but I'm
Yes.
just doing this. So I'm paying myself as minimum as I can to live.
Right.
Is there anything else that I should be included in that?
Yes. So the definition of payroll tax includes salaries, wages, benefits,
Okay.
any cash that's taken from the business. So if you decide that you're going to buy some groceries for $100, that's taxable.
Okay.
If you decide that from your profits you're going to pay yourself and use that money to pay nursery fees, that's taxable.
Okay.
So it's any money that's taken from the business
Okay.
or taken from the earnings of the company to be used for personal use is taxable.
So could you, for ease of understanding, could you just say, I'm going to pay myself a salary, right?
Yes.
And only what I pay myself in salary gets used for my personal stuff.
Right.
So that, because I would imagine it would be easier to
Right.
do it that way. So you
Right.
see the money come out and it goes into my personal account.
Right.
And then whatever I use to
That's-
pay my other expenses are,
Right.
that's what you would be looking for, right?
And that's what you would think should happen.
Yeah.
But you find that the small business owners, the ones that don't have accounts in their names, their business accounts, and then people that just, it's their small business, you find that looking through their books and records, they're just taking money out as they need it. You know what I mean? So they'll pay themselves a salary, but then they're also taking out what they need as they need, and also includes like bonuses and dividends as well. So yeah.
But what's not included, and you clarify if I'm wrong, is the cost of operating the business.
Right,
so like
business
supplies.
expenses. Right, business expenses.
Right.
Yeah,
That
so
is
that's
not included.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
anything that relates to the business, that's not taxable.
Okay.
Yeah, so like electricity for your space that you're renting.
Right.
And like paper supplies and things like supplies for the company itself for whatever products that you're producing, that's not taxable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yes.
good to know because I
Yes.
think people get confused.
Yes.
And I would just say the easiest way would be just pay yourself a salary, right?
Right, yes.
The rest of the money that you use should be business expense related,
Right,
which
right.
makes it easier for you in the event that you do have to audit a
Right.
company.
Yeah, so that's it.
Now, talking about audits, how does that happen? Like,
Right.
I mean, if I'm paying taxes or whatever, is it a random selection, or how do you come see you
How
if you're a
does it come to me?
business?
Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it would be from non-compliance.
Okay.
So, if a company has been under-filing their employees, and we know that they have 10 employees and they're only filing for 5, it could be if they are not filing at all,
Okay.
and we know that they're operational. It could be if we get a tip from somebody else, a whistleblower, saying, hey, I work for this company and they deduct payroll tax, but I just want to check to see if they're actually submitting these, because essentially you're taking the money from your employees.
Yeah, you are, yeah.
And that money should be going towards government, but some companies are not even doing that. So these are just a few examples of reasons why we would end up auditing a company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what the split is? Because you mentioned taking the money from the employee. How does it work? How do you pay it, actually?
Right. Okay. So the tax structure changed in 2017.
Okay.
Whereby there will be the employer portion and the employee portion. The employer portion is the company who has employees and pays tax on the remuneration that they pay to the employees.
Okay.
The employee portion is what you would look in your pay slip and you'll see that there has been a deduction for payroll tax. That amount right there is also submitted along with that company's total tax liability.
Got you.
So the company submits that on your behalf.
Okay.
So that's why it's split into different portions of tax now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the person who's self-employed,
They will pay 2 portions of tax.
so it's like you are the employee and the employer.
Yes.
So the total amount payable comes from whatever you
Right.
you list as
The
your
tax rate, yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes people become intimidated when they find out as a self-employed person, I'm paying the employer portion and the employee portion.
Yes.
But when they really look at the tax rates, the employer portion, if they're paying less than $50,000 for the quarter, is only 1.75%.
Right.
And then if they're paying less than $50,000 for the quarter, the employee portion is 1.5%. So in the end, it's not that much tax that you're paying.
Right.
It just sounds like
It
it's
sounds
intimidating.
like it. Yeah, it's like I got to pay it all.
Yes, exactly. Yep, that's how they feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's why it's good to have this conversation
Yes.
because it's like demystifying what it actually is. I
Right,
think
right.
you just hear, okay, now this is another expense.
Right.
But really it's just the cost of doing business in
Right.
Bermuda,
And that's
right?
it, yes. And it also that those funds go towards social initiatives in Bermuda.
Yeah.
So you're contributing to things that's needed in Bermuda.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for the person that is thinking about starting their business, what would you recommend they do? Like, where should they go to get the information? Is it the website? Should they
Right.
call and book an appointment and speak with someone first? Or what would you suggest
Well,
they
I
do?
would recommend that they do look on our website because there is a wealth of information on the website. Review the website, and then if they have questions, they can either contact our office by phone, or we also have our tax inquiry mailbox that we get queries from as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next question I'm going to ask you is around any incentives, concessions, anything like that, right?
Right.
Because I know, especially after COVID and all of
Right.
that, there was the government was trying to do things to help ease the burden
Right.
for business owners. So can you talk a little bit about any concessions or incentives that might be available now?
Yeah, sure. So there are various concessions that are available, and it just depends on what industry you're in. The BEDC offers the new startup concession,
Yes.
whereby the first 4 quarters are not taxable for the employer portion.
Right. So you got to pay one part.
You got to pay one part. Everybody pays taxes.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing I say. Everybody pays taxes.
Right.
And that will be on the employee portion.
Right.
And then the other concession that BDC has is the EEZ zone. So if your business is within those areas, then you get 9 quarters where the employer portion is not taxable.
Right.
So then we also have new hire concessions, and that is for the larger companies who have remuneration greater than $500,000 for the year. And then their employer portion is not taxable. So it's an initiative to get people to hire more people so that more people are working.
Right. Right.
And then there's other concessions for restaurants. They get a concession during the slow period for the employer portion. And then the retail industry as well, during the slow periods, they get concessions. So there are concessions available.
Right.
It's just a matter of finding out where your business fits in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are conversations they can have with your
Yes.
officers and things like that.
Right, exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
So the key takeaway here, people, is to register.
Yes.
If you're starting, if you're selling, or you're providing a service, to go ahead and register. It can take 5 days and you'll have what you need. But then also to file.
Yes.
And I think that may be what people miss out on is they're like, well, I'm registered.
Right.
But filing happens 4 times a year.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Can you say when they should? I know you said the 1st and the 15th.
Right. So the quarter end is March.
Okay.
This upcoming. So the filing deadlines are between April 1st to the 15th.
Okay.
And then the next quarter end would be June. So then it'll be July 1st to the 15th.
Okay.
And then the next one is September 30th. So that filing will be between October 1st and the 15th. So that's the 4 quarters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So make sure you file, even like you said, if you haven't paid yourself anything or paid your employees for whatever reason, still let you know.
Right.
So that you don't have to like automatically assess people.
Exactly.
And you don't want to get those penalty fees accruing and
yes,
all of that.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Well, that's good to know. There is a method. There is a way to avoid, I guess, coming to see you.
Right, exactly.
And I want to see you.
Yes, I mean, I want to see if I can help you to, improve your, improve on doing the tax on time and all of that. But I don't want to see you for other reasons. No. Yes,
we don't. We want to avoid that as much as possible.
Yes.
So I think it's helpful to know that you do have sort of your monthly information sessions, so they can log on to your website to check to see when those sessions will be available.
Yes, for sure. Normally we would put it. If you're a new registrant, then we send out a package.
Okay.
And in that package, we would include the dates of the seminar, and then we also invite you to the seminar.
Okay.
And then we also send out, we tell everybody everything. Then we also send out monthly emails, not monthly, quarter-end emails to remind you, hey, don't forget, tax time's coming up. If we need a seminar, this is the seminar date. So we try to get the information out as much as possible.
Right.
But it's really up to the taxpayer to do what they have to do on their side as well.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Let's work together to make sure we don't have to overpay.
Yes.
Well, it's good to know. I really appreciate you coming and just kind of breaking it down, helping us to understand what the requirements are, what needs to happen.
Yes.
And that even if you forget, there is some recourse.
Yes.
But the key is that you have to let you know, you have to follow up.
Yes.
And don't just bury your head in the sand
And that's
sometimes,
it,
which can be easy. It's like,
Right.
well, if I don't see it, it doesn't really exist, but
And
that's not
it.
that's not how it works.
No.
One last thing I wanted to ask you. So I've registered for this business. I've done it and realized that it's no longer working for me. What is the process to close out your payroll tax ID number?
Right. So that's a very important question, because we find that people think that because they've decided that they don't want to be in business anymore, that nobody else has to know. So meanwhile, you've moved on with life. The tax office is there accumulating assessments at your business, and 3-5 years later you're wondering why you owe all this money.
Yeah.
Because you didn't tell us.
Right.
So what we do is, on the website again, there is deletion forms.
Okay.
And on the deletion form you let us know that you're closing your business, and that basically is that you're closing your business, so that we can update our system. And as long as there's not a debt attached to that account, then it's just pretty clean.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Another question that came to mind as we're talking is, in some instances, people don't close the business, they want to sell it. And so for the person purchasing the business, they're
Right.
like, well, I don't want your bad debt.
Right. And
I
that's
don't
it.
want... Is there a way in which a person could sell the business if they owe payroll tax and the new owner doesn't have to take on that debt?
Right, so that will all be in the purchase agreement. The agreement between the two, the old owner and the new owner. So that's something that we would need to have in that deletion form, advising us of this. If not, what normally happens, if it's not a limited company, the debt would go over to the new ownership.
Got you.
So that's an important thing to know if you're deciding to take over somebody's business. First phone call should be, hey, tax department, I'm taking over this account. We wouldn't tell you that they have a debt, but we would contact the owner who owns that that tax account and say, hey, you're selling this business, but you owe $40,000.
Right.
So, this is all part of...
Could the new purchaser ask the old owners or the person selling for some sort of certificate from you saying that they're in good standing and up to date?
Right, yeah. So we do tax certificates.
Okay.
Because various companies in Bermuda, so TCD, the bank, BDC, they request to have tax certificates. So if this person, the new owner, wants to see that they're in good standing, that would be another way for them to say,
check.
Yes,
Yeah. And I think that's advisable, right? Because you can't share that information because due to privacy.
Right.
But they can certainly ask the new owner for a proof with the date stamp that says that they're current.
Right.
And then they could use that to help them determine whether or not they want to purchase.
And that's it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other scenario that we've seen is where, let's say they purchase a business, but they want to change the name of the business. And they're coming to you to file, I guess, with this new name.
Right.
Is there any way that it shows in your system that this used to be the old business? Like, how would you reconcile that?
Right. So what we do is, because our system is pretty manual, everything's in the file. So what we would do was just have support and documentation advising us, and then they would do what we call a change of status form. So on that form, it tells us change of address, changes of telephone numbers, changes of ownership, and the change of name of business.
Okay.
And then the support behind to show that, especially if it's a legal company, to show that there has been a name change.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last question. I'm thinking of all this stuff. Thinking of scenarios that people come in and have.
Right.
The one would be the actual name. So I'm coming to you, Jamillah's Things, right?
Yeah.
How do you determine whether or not I can have that name? Right? In your system, is there a way that we can check to see if Jamillah's Things is available? Maybe somebody else has it. How do you determine that?
Now, we don't determine what the name of your business is, or if somebody else has that name. We would just take the information that you give us, and we would take your identification, and we would take utility bill. Okay. So that we know who the person is. Okay. Now, if there's another Jamillah's Things, we would have their information as well, and we'd be able to determine by looking in the file who owns which company. Right. Yeah. So
it's okay. Like it could be two Jamillah's Things out there then.
It's possible. I don't know about the what's the legal company? I mean, the government department that deals with
registrar of companies.
Yes.
I know for limited liability companies, they won't. If it's the same name, same industry, they'll be like, yeah, no, you can't do that. So I didn't know if there was something similar within the Office of the Tax Commissioner, or they're just like, well,
yeah, because we would ask questions beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, hey, is this the same company?
Yeah.
Nothing legally
that says that it can't be that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, but then you don't want your same business being the name of somebody else, so then that just makes you not want to have your name.
Would you or could the officer say there is an existing business with this name as an FYI? Right. You might want to consider this or whatever. Would they say that or no?
We would just say, because we don't give out information.
Yeah.
We would just confirm internally what the owners are.
Yes.
Like, we wouldn't tell you what to do with your business.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't do that.
She said, come to us, we'll tell you. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, this has been, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Yes. I think it's been very helpful. For those that may have questions after this or want to make an appointment to come in, just please remind people how they can do that.
Yes, for sure. So I would encourage everyone to first go onto our website, www.gov.bm /payroll-tax.
Okay.
And on that page, you'll be able to find contact details and also the email address for our general inquiry box.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yep. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Trudy. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And hopefully after this, people are going to be filing.
Yes. Yes. Hopefully.
They're not missing any days.
That's right. Yes. And keep their accounts up to date.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
the information. Right. Yes.
It's better to have it up to date, to have that constant communication than to just be like, oh, I just can't do it. The last thing I want to ask you about is, in the event someone does get caught up and they are in arrears, what is your opinion on payment plans? Is that possible?
Yes.
How do you?
So, like I said, the tax department really does work with everyone.
Okay.
So if you did become behind and accrued in arrears, then we would encourage everyone to set up a payment plan.
Okay.
So that we have debt manager offices that work specifically with that. And what you do is you sign up for a 6-month plan, a 1-year plan, and what you want to do is make sure you adhere to it, because if you don't, then you're not going to get that tax certificate from us. us.
Right.
And then it's just going to look bad you're going to be in bad standing with the Office of the Tax Commissioner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yes.
recourse.
Yes.
That's the key
Yes.
takeaway is that, keeping the communication open,
Yes.
filing when you need to, and registering, but remembering to file
On
for
time.
each quarter
Yes.
on time so you
Yes.
don't get assessed fees.
Yes.
And you don't want that automatic assessment because
Right.
in more cases than not, it's not correct.
Right, exactly.
Right,
It's
right.
it's inflated.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, then.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Mind Your Business with me, your host, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. because if you don't mind your business, who will? Mind Your Business is brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here.